Audi A8 W12. This is the car of the financial crisis. The people who drove this car caused a global real estate and economic recession and got richer doing it. If you were the type of person who benefited from and were morally okay with tricking the lower classes into taking out variable rate mortgages on houses that you know they can't afford, this is what you drove. The A8 W12 MSRP'd for $120,100. Adjusted for inflation to 2024, this car would cost $175,456. $175,456 will buy you a Lucid Air Grand Touring package, and you'll have money left over to outbid everybody for the cleanest first-generation Toyota Tacoma short bed TRD with a 5-speed manual on Cars and Bids.
Oh, what I could do. Oh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That's like 3 different motors
I know.
to do all of that. So adaptive air suspension, it'll rise and it'll go up and down.
Yes.
Based on
up, down, and whatever comfort does. You got your CD player, and you got your radio, and of course the telephone, which doesn't
work anymore
right.
because it's...
If that's right. I don't know.
Maybe if you had an old school BlackBerry, it might work with this.
The shade in the back.
Okay, if you're gonna press it, which one's gonna...
Yep, all right, well, we're gonna merge like we're going on to the Jersey Turnpike.
Let's do it.
Okay, so it doesn't really drop down. Oh, that is... Okay, it pulls in whatever gear we're in, like it's in first gear. That's stealthy. I wonder if it would accelerate harder if I put it into sport mode. That was just regular drive mode.
That's right. If you go into sport mode,
you know, keep it in. There's a lot of revs here, but actually, yeah. Ooh, a lot of rev hang. I was not expecting that. Ooh. All right, that active suspension. This is a pretty bumpy road, and even in dynamic mode, this is smoothing everything out. This is a unique driving experience. Okay, this is the downhill descending radius that likes to upset cars. Let's see what it does. Yep, tires protest a little bit, but this thing stays right on point.
Thank you, Greg, for letting us drive your car. And if you're watching this with your family, I'm not saying Dad is bad for buying an A8 W12. Your dad bought this used after the subprime mortgage crisis was over, when the popularity of big Audis had fallen out of favor and it was replaced by the hot hatch renaissance of the 20-teens. Greg saw a bargain and took it because he wanted to experience a car that does everything. And in the mid-2000s, the A8 was a car that was good at everything. It had great acceleration, fantastic handling, a very high top speed, comfort, safety, great braking, privacy, quiet. The Audi A8 delivered on every single front. If you were a mid-manager at one of these mortgage companies, or maybe even a vice president, this is what you drove back then. You're not the boss. The boss would drive a Phaeton. But both you and your boss knew that the ride of the subprime mortgages wouldn't last. That house of subprime cards was about to fall, and you'd have to have a car that would then blend in with all the pores as the 2000s rolled on. And the A8 did that too. You don't really look rich in a car like this. At a glance, the A8 just looked like kind of nothing. It just looked like any other big black sedan from the 2000s. What is that? Is that an A5? Is that a big Volkswagen Passat? I don't know. Some new Ford Taurus for detectives? I don't know. Who cares? It's a car that isn't noticed when it rolls up, and it fades out of people's memory the minute it's gone. There's no heavy badging on an A8. Just the 4 rings and a small W12 badge. But underneath, this car has everything you could want from technology in 2008. We'll try to go over the list of everything this car has, but this thing has dual DVD monitors in the back in 2008, huge deal. But it's not like it just plays one movie, it plays a bunch of movies. It doesn't have a DVD player, it has a DVD caddy. So you can load this up with, I don't know, Kung Fu Panda, Bolt, Wall-E, bunch of Disney TV shows. This thing would have hours and hours of movies in the trunk that would just play through all of them. And your kids wouldn't have to annoy you because they got their own aux ports in the back. It took a long time for Audi to become associated with luxury to the degree that a car like this made sense to offer to people. This is history time. I know this won't be on the test, but anybody who falls asleep gets autumn school. It's like summer school, but you'll be raking leaves in front of my house. In the late 1800s, an engineer named August Horsch, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it, was working as a production manager for Carl Benz. Horsch had been a blacksmith and a shipbuilder. He wanted to take a crack at automobiles, so he founded his own company, brought in some partners, and started producing twin-cylinder engine cars. The first vehicle Horsch and Company produced used a friction clutch and made a whopping 4.5 horsepower, and reached a top speed of a blinding 20 miles an hour. That's how fast my 9-bot scooter goes. The headlights were candle-lit lanterns, and even acknowledging that it was the early 1900s, nothing about this seemed sustainable. But Horsch kept at it, and the company would develop a 4-cylinder, and then a 6-cylinder, and then suddenly 2 race car drivers would win a world championship in a Horsch, and now people wanted in on the brand. Horsch would eventually become a household name. Daimler founder Paul Daimler would even work for Horsch for a period of time. But things went south when the company's board of directors decided Horsch had to go. I couldn't find out why he was forced out, but Horsch decided that since he started a successful Horsch company once, he could start a new Horsch that would be twice as successful and twice as Horsch. But the German courts somehow found that Horsch's name was a registered trademark that was tied to a company he was just forced out of, so he couldn't use it even though it was his literal name. Luckily, since Horsch wasn't just a proper noun in German, but a regular noun, it had a Latin equivalent. And that's how we ended up with the name Audi, after the old German word for listen. Audi would be acquired by the owner of a German automaker, DKW, in 1928. 4 years later, DKW and Audi would merge with another German automaker named Wanderer, and a fourth automaker, Horsch again. This alliance of 4 was named the Auto Union, and the logo representing the merger of these 4 companies is how Audi got its rings. Now, Audi was in the business of V8s. Over time, the Auto Union would develop a solid reputation, with Audi being a part of that legacy, as the race cars produced by the Auto Union were developed by legends like Ferdinand Porsche. By 1936, Horsch was slinging luxury V8s and publishing his autobiography, having made it not just as an engineer, but as a businessman. The Auto Union would eventually disband, and Audi would be resurrected under Volkswagen, but Horsch wouldn't live to see it, passing away in 1951. So, what's the point of all this history? Well, it's that the story of August Horsch is kind of a microcosm for the company he founded, because they really didn't start out making luxury vehicles. But over time, that became a vital part of the company's identity, like Saab with safety, General Motors with bankruptcy, and Tesla with populism. And once you lock yourself into a certain niche, it can be hard to back out. It can be hard to scale down. But I think what insulated Audi from greater criticism in the luxury market is that it was never really the industry leader. It was never BMW or, ironically, Mercedes-Benz. So Audi could thrive from a position of consumer loyalty rather than general public perception. But only when times allow for a car like this to thrive. Because when people don't have money, the first thing to get the heave-ho is the luxury car sitting in the driveway. And that's how Greg ended up with this. The W12 proves the argument that if you can't afford it twice, then don't buy it, or you're going to end up in the chair opposite Caleb Hammer, and he's going to go through a bank statement asking you why you have 3 charges to Kunkelman fried fish and auto repair in the same month.
Or just something like that.
You know, you could follow sales of this, essentially just plot it over with the down industrial average.
Yeah, yeah.
As one went up, the other went up. As one went down, these car numbers, like numbers produced, went down to follow it as well.
This was a luxury car intended to be a signifier of a bright future. But the problem with having a sunny outlook is that you don't always see the storm clouds until your suede jacket is ruined. The 6-liter W12 is basically 2 Volkswagen VR6s side by side, making 450 horsepower and matched to a 6-speed Tiptronic transmission. I don't know if August Horse ever could have imagined, back in the days of 4.5 horsepower engines, that his company would ever make something like the W12. But I feel like, having lived through 2 world wars, he might understand why a luxury car like this wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to people living in lean times. As the financial crisis hit toward the end of the 2000s, we see those production numbers drop like a hot rock. We go from 22,182 units in 2007, 20,140 units in 2008, and then in 2009, when we get the first model year after the mortgage crisis really takes shape, what do we see here? Only 8,599 units. Now, you could argue that a great car can weather just about any change in the economy, otherwise pickup trucks and Jeeps wouldn't sell as well as they do. But there's also a limit. And I think the problem this car faced at the same time was that his value came from being a show-off interior car at one of the biggest eat-the-rich periods in American history. And while this car doesn't look like a luxury car from the outside, the second you get inside, you see where the money's going. And the W12 is a legendary engine. But these weren't part of the high-value, hard-to-find club to the extent that they are now. For some people, you didn't really need the W12. The twin-turbo 4-liter V8 was just fine. That's a nice engine, too. Pretty much the same amount of power. Plus, then you have the tunability of turbos. It's almost as smooth. And since this isn't a show-off car from the outside, really what's the point? Other than just your self-satisfaction that you have a W12 engine. The Audi A8 was an important car by pretty much any metric, this generation in particular. The D3 generation launched in 2002, and it would see the debut of the in-car multimedia interface that I was just talking about, that was like BMW's iDrive system, but high speed, with multiple microprocessors. It was also the first Audi to get the adaptive air suspension and continuous dampening control. The first Audi with GPS navigation and DVD maps. The first Audi with a 6-speed Tiptronic transmission. The first Audi with a driver identification system. And the first Audi with bi-xenon HID headlights for high beam and low beam. And then 2007 bought a late-style refresh, including a facelift with full-nose grille, larger rectangular fog lights, improved LED taillight assemblies, a full-speed range-adaptive cruise control, the side assist and lane assist features, and other things that'd take longer to list than sitting through the passing of the collection plate. And the lines on the rear camera move. In 2007, when you turn on the backup camera, backup cameras weren't mandated until sometime during the teens, and this one had it in 2007, and it did the thing where the rear lines moved to show you where your car is going to be as you back it up. Audi was basically solving for X before anybody realized they were living in a math problem. It's got soft closed doors that are like a gut being sucked in when a pretty girl walks by. And this doesn't have dual zone climate control. Oh, no. This has got 4-zone climate control in this car. So everybody can have variations of AC and heat on at the same time and make fuel economy even worse. And a seatbelt chime that's waiting to be sampled by Metro Boomin. And the A8L got you nearly 5 inches of extra legroom. Yes, the Audi A8L is the official car of Division 1 peacocking. But there's also a reason it impresses people. It's ultimately a good car, a comfortable car, a luxurious car that still holds up 17 years later. How many things from 2007 still look impressive today, still feel as modern and with it and contemporary 17 years later? Besides the Sopranos or Mad Men. Maybe it's just cynicism that causes us not to give recent history its proper due. Hell, 2007 probably deserves a bit more nostalgia, if for no other reason it was pre-Cash for Clunkers. Ultimately, the conditions of history have changed, such that this car could get a fairer hearing than it did in its youth. Whether that makes it good is another matter entirely. But is it worth driving? Absolutely. Every car is worth driving at least once, no matter who it was made for. Why else are we all here?
I'm also seeing a blank down here. I wonder if you paid a little extra, you would have gotten probably air-conditioned seats as well.
Well, you got air-conditioned seats in the front.
Okay.
But I don't think there's air-conditioned seats in the back.
No.
I think it's just heated seats.
Oh. They're gonna do that to the Ambassador? I like how this, it's almost a soft close, or maybe just the material. It doesn't snap closed.
Huh.
Yeah. Wait, are there vents in your seat that blow back on me?
Doesn't feel like it.
No.
Seem like they're purely performative, well, not even performative,
Yeah.
cosmetic vents.
I like that subwoofer. I gotta say, this was, oh, that's a ski bag.
Oh!
So when you put the skis through, you obviously don't get the back seat
All wet, and the edges of the skis don't cut into anything.
Everybody needs a ski bag. Oh boy.
Oh.
Now you did it.
It will never go back like,
No,
I'll
you
put-
gotta fold it
I
just
ski, I'll
right.
put it back. I'll put it
Let's
back.
see. This will be good right here.
Now it begins.
It's no. I
No?
don't think. I think you just kind of fold it in squares from there. Like I've tried just like stuffing it like a sleeping bag.
Yeah.
That won't work. I think so long as you kind of do what you're doing,
It's got its own seat belt.
I think so you can belt the skis together maybe.
Uh-oh.
Well, you can try a little harder by closing it.
Oh, it looks like it was accordion folded.
There you go.
Yeah,
Shove
I
it
think
all
that's
in
it.
there. No. You're getting it in the top there and the sides. Just
It's the top that's what
There
Oh,
you go.
I'm bending it.
no. Now the left side.
Oh
The
my
little
goodness.
seat belt. Do you want me to show you how this is done?
Yeah.
It's a checkout, like everything else in this car. Everything in this car is a checkout. It's like flying an airplane.
Bang, 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 bang. Bang, bang.
Voila!
Nice.
Oh, indeed.
There we go.
Nicely done.
Bang, bang. Oh, oh.
What?
No, we
I thought it was done binging.
Oh no, it's not gonna be.
It's never gonna be done binging.
No.